Hey there, it's Joel with Pat the Zion Podcast, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to give you a little bit of a preview of an upcoming, very likely 5 or 6 part series that we have titled The Most High Remembers His Covenant. And I just want to invite you in ahead of time. It's not even been recorded yet. This is going to be a process from the time we record it and actually get them all put out from beginning to end. But I wanted to give you a little heads up for those of you who follow the program regularly to read the beginning of the book of Exodus, primarily chapters 2 and 3. And what I want to do is engage into the concern and the consideration of asking some questions about how do we know we're in covenant? How do we know that we're a covenantal people? And I wanted to give a quick rundown of the highest points that we're going to hit as we go through this next series. The Most High remembers His covenant. We're going to set the stage of the entire theme of Yahweh remembering His covenantal people. And we're going to read some accounts from Josephus about his writings about the very early stages of the life of Moses, how he got here, what was going on historically, and what Yahweh was orchestrating in many ways behind the scenes to move on the behalf of His people. So we'll read that historical account. We're going to have 25 plus different biblical references within this series as well. Part 1 is going to be Shavah. Shavah is the Hebrew word for to cry out for help. This appears in Exodus early on in our primary text of Exodus chapter 2, when the Israelite people, the Hebrews, are under oppression. They are under the heavy-handed authority of the Egyptians, and they, over time, begin to shavah. They cry out. We're gonna talk about, well, were they crying out to Yahweh for help? Were they merely groaning? Because the text in Exodus chapter 2 specifically talks about they groaned because of their bondage. They cried out. But Elohim heard their groaning, and Elohim remembered His covenant, which is going to be, this is our primary text that we will repeat in every part that we discuss here as we ask this question. What does it mean to cling to the original Hebrew text, to shavah, to cry out for help? It's not merely a casual emotion. It's a very deep crying out for help that we will discuss. Part 2 will be a covenant bigger than us all. Now, this is of utmost importance that we here in 2025, most of us have a Christian evangelical mindset and belief system and doctrines and dispensational thinking we've inherited. That has led us to what I would call, and we highlight a lot on the program, an errant way to approach even the gospel. We have received a personal gospel. We have received a what you get, you don't do anything and you get this and you get this and you get this and you get this, and it's personal salvation, it's personal revelation, it's personal freedom. But when we do that, I will discuss in part 2, this covenant idea, this covenant principle that's bigger than all of us, that goes all the way back to the ancient way that we talk about, of course, all the time here. There is something, biblically speaking, about covenant that supersedes the mere individual. It is for a corporate reality of a people, a called out holy assembly, people, a family that exalts and glorifies Yahweh's great name. And they do everything, and everything is done on their behalf for Yahweh's great name's sake, not just for mere individual freedom or salvation. So we'll talk about that as well in part 2. And part 3 will be those who Yahweh does and does not hear. There, scripturally now, there are people that Yahweh hears their cries for help. He hears their prayers, okay? And there, if we're going to cling to the word and be full and fair and true to the text, there are those that Yahweh does not hear. There are the prayers of some, there are the cries from some Yahweh does not hear. Whether we like that or not in our age is really not, it's not important. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I feel like God hears everyone's cries. I feel like God could never tell anyone turn a deaf ear to someone's prayers. Well, friend, that doesn't really matter how we feel about it, whether we like it or not. Scripturally speaking, there are those who Yahweh hears, and there are those that Yahweh does not hear. We will talk about that in part 3. Many, many verses we will highlight in that consideration. We will move into part 4, a biblical example of covenant and how many times throughout the biblical timeline, and of course, I would say to us here, we are invited in to partake of a covenant that, as we already referenced, is bigger than us. And we're going to use very briefly a discussion. We're not even going to read the whole text or anything. It would take too much time. If you're familiar with the account of David and the son of Jonathan, Mephibosheth, we will talk about this. I believe, as I went through this study, this arose in my memory, in my heart, like this is one biblical example to our point, which is many times a covenantal promise, blessing, act from Yahweh on our behalf. It's bigger than us. It supersedes us. And I believe the account with David and Mephibosheth is a great example for us to use to apply to our own lives, to consider that many times covenants that were made, promises that were made long, long ago, supersede us, yet we are included, invited into share with a promise, take part in a promise, a covenantal promise that goes way, way back before us, okay? I believe that is a good example, so we're going to talk about that, which of course will lead us to discussing Abraham as well. In part 5, which I think will be the conclusion, it will. The seed of Abraham and Yahweh's great name. We're going to go all the way back to Abraham, and we're going to talk about these promises and this covenantal extension of Yahweh's greatness and mercy and kindness and desire to have a set-apart, holy, familial people goes all the way back to Abraham. It goes all the way back to the beginning, if we wanted to go like to creation itself and what Yahweh said he would do to Adam and Eve when they were put out of the garden in disobedience, and what he would do to restore what had been abandoned and lost by humanity. But we know, of course, a huge marker in time is the covenant with Abraham and the promise of the seed of Abraham, which you'll see even in the thumbnail image that I chose, is to look up at the stars and imagine, if you can, Abraham, that your seed, your offspring, your sons and daughters are going to be as the heavens, the luminaries in the sky. And so we're going to talk about what for? The why for Yahweh's great namesake. For his great namesake of those who will what? Join themselves into a wonderful covenant that's bigger than us. It's greater than anything we've done to earn it, as so many people challenge us here, a lot of times without saying anything directly to us, sadly. But like that we are works based only to earn covenant salvation and to earn God's good graces and to earn because of our... Well, friend, we believe, in summary, without going into all of it, which we will do, of course, here in just a little bit here in this ongoing series. We believe we have inherited a covenantal promise that is ancient and eternal, that flows all the way through Yeshua, the Son, the Son of the Most High, okay, the Messiah, which is an invitation to join yourself into covenantal promises and blessings that are ancient and old and are much bigger than us individually. Why? So that we can become a small part of an entire family, okay, of the Most High. And by doing so, we corporately exalt for all time in a new heaven and a new earth, a fulfillment of a covenant people bringing glory to the name of the Most High. So, friend, I hope you will join us as we talk about this. Again, I guess it'll officially be 6 parts if you count the setting of the stage and the introduction that we'll do here next, as we talk about how the Most High remembers his covenant. Won't you come back and make a mental note to look into Exodus rather, chapters 2 and 3 specifically. If you have access to the writings of Josephus and Antiquities of the Jews, go to the area where he's talking about the birth and the onset of the life of Moses. It will be really helpful to join in, maybe a little bit more engaged. So make sure you come back here to our channel, of course, or go listen over at pathtozion.com. Send us an email if you have questions about anything that I will say in these upcoming parts at pathtoZionPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to recording this and sharing that the Most High remembers his covenant. Amen.